and welcome to today's episode of the Beauty Industry Podcast, your online support community for the professional beauty industry, connecting you with educational pieces, innovative industry products, and inspiration from industry experts. I am your host, founding director of Beauty Industry, Tamara Shaw. Our guest today is an industry expert to say the least. A decade's worth of being a professional makeup artist and educator sees our guest currently working across both Australia and Los Angeles with beauty owners and international beauty houses including Chanel, L'Oreal, Ray Morris, Jane Iredale, and many more. A wealth of experience, her journey combined with a master's degree in business, our guest now owns her own consulting business, helping businesses grow and manage their brand, gain online influence and boost sales, all via tailored strategies to help you meet and achieve your business goals. As if that isn't enough, our guest has organically grown her own social media pages with an excess of 100,000 followers and now wants to help you do the same through hosting educational workshops in your business with collaborations and coaching. From Beauty by Neha, today we welcome Neha Hobson. Thank you, Neha, for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Tamara. This is so exciting.
My absolute pleasure. So, Neha, step us back to the beginning of your career. Where did you start?
Honestly, it feels like a lifetime that I've been in the beauty industry, but it was never a straight path for me. I actually started in the corporate world because I'd done so much study, which led me down more of a traditional route. But I actually found it to be a soul killer. I just wasn't fit for the corporate world and I was extremely unhappy. And my husband, who was my then boyfriend, actually felt really bad for me. So he bought me a professional makeup artistry course with Napoleon Purtis Makeup Academy. Yeah, and he just wanted me to do something creative and be happy. And the moment that I entered the course, I just knew that I was just thinking to myself, what have I been doing all these years? Because it was just at that moment so obvious to me that I was a creative and that's where I belonged. And that felt really good. But at the same time, it was also really scary because it meant giving up the corporate world and giving up a steady income to pursue something that may or may not work out.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's a good move that he's now your husband because he's given you this amazing step into this incredible career that you've built.
He really has, honestly. I'm one of those lucky girls where, like you look back on your life and you're like, I really chose the right guy. We've been together for more than 12 years and, we spent most of our 20s together. So he's really watched me grow and become who I am. So yeah, he's awesome.
Incredible. And so that led you into the pathway of makeup. Did you just thrive once you were in there doing that course and you got to be that creative, hands-on, kind of kinetic, everyday career?
Yeah, look, I interviewed with Chanel and I feel like I just hit the ground running because Chanel was like gold for me at the time, iconic beauty brand. They've been around since, if you look at the history of beauty and makeup, they're one of the first brands. So really, for me, I just interviewed with them and I got the job.
Yeah, incredible. Must be very talented and skilled, I would say. And so you're now freelancing. What made you go from having a steady career where you are, paid a salary, you're there 9 to 5, it's a very secure role, into freelancing now because there are some nerves around going out on your own? Any tips you can give to somebody who perhaps is thinking that they want to go down the freelancing pathway but has some hesitancy around doing so?
Yeah, look, it's definitely a risky path. It's not going to be steady, but I think there are very few things in life that, that are like that. Like if you're going to have the risk, you're also going to have the reward is what I mean. So my advice to anyone doing that is really build your social media because in this day and age, in order to get those freelancing clients and have that, build that regular income, the best way to do it is to showcase your talent in the online space. And Instagram, for example, which I'm passionate about, it's the perfect place to do that. So word of mouth works well, but I think nothing works as well as Instagram. So really showcase your content on there and build relationships on there, and the work will just start to flow in.
Incredible. And it's a little bit more difficult these days, I guess, with Instagram and Facebook, because there are so many people who are doing that, but there are, so many opportunities. And if you think that, the makeup artistry world is too big already and we don't need another makeup artist, you're really disheartening your own career, because there are so many amazing freelance makeup artists that are coming out there, even, every single day now that the industry is quite saturated with the likes of the Facebook and the YouTube and things like that.
Absolutely. And I know that there's some platforms now that makeup artists can sign up on to kind of make that side of it a bit easier for them. And I think the key is also honing in on what separates you from other makeup artists, because like you said, it's such a saturated market. Like, what actually separates you? Whether, it might be something as simple as your personality. A lot of the time there's enough talent out there, but you might just be more in demand because you're so easy to work with. You make the client feel beautiful and feel comfortable. But they're only going to know that, in the consultation, once you get that opportunity to showcase your talent. So I think signing up to some of these platforms, I think One Tribe is one of them. I don't know if you've heard of One Tribe.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
I was speaking with another kind of company and brand the other day called Style Me, and they're really great. And you can create like an online profile, and that way you can upload your services, and they connect you with people who are looking for makeup artists. So there's so many brands out there now that are like this, and so it really kind of does give the makeup artist a helping hand into going freelance.
Absolutely. So I think signing up to those brands and really, communicating to them what makes you who you are and why you stand out, so then they can include that in your profile, perhaps that would be good.
Amazing. So you mentioned the Chanel, and some other brands you've worked with in the past are like iconic household names. So you've got Estee Lauder, Clinique, Jane Iredale Mineral Makeup. What was the most interesting thing you found about working with these iconic brands?
They're actually all really different brands with completely different cultures. I think there were so many interesting aspects, and I feel so grateful because with each brand, I received so much training, whether it was skin, makeup, business, sales. I just really got trained up with each brand. But I think perhaps the most interesting thing was the way that they challenged me to expand. And really, at each point with each role, I had to kind of step out of my comfort zone and get really comfortable with being uncomfortable. And it didn't feel very good at the time, especially because in your 20s, you're still kind of figuring out your skills and who you are. And it just felt really uncomfortable, like having to conquer my fear of public speaking, for example. But, like looking back, that was probably the most interesting thing, because all of those things have now worked together to give me the skills and the knowledge that I need to run my own business. So everything basically works for good.
Yeah, 100%. And you're exactly right where you've said when you are in the most uncomfortable situations, that's when you learn to either swim or you learn to sink. And majority of the time, you've got no other choice when you're so uncomfortable that you just thrive. And it's like 100% full energy, because especially when you're freelancing, for example, there's nothing else you can do. If you decide to sink and you don't want to fight for your energy and your passion in that career, it's kind of like, well, okay, where do I go now? But when you are uncomfortable and you put yourself in those positions, you're running a business, you're doing a freelance, you are the fallback person. So if it doesn't work, that's on you and that's your business. So you kind of just have to really expend all your energy and just make it work, don't you?
100%. You have to take responsibility, especially when you own your own business or you're in a new area, because it all starts and ends with you. And the more that you can embrace those situations, and really don't look at it from a mentality of fear, but rather, and this is, I say this to a lot of my clients too, try and approach everything with courage and just as an opportunity to learn and grow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Absolutely. Mentioned there in your introduction that you travel to LA quite frequently, back and forward from Melbourne and LA. What is your relevance with these trips there, and how different do you find the international beauty industry in comparison to the Australian beauty industry?
I'm a little bit obsessed with LA. I used to actually study there. So I did my bachelor's of communications in LA. And one of my best friends still lives over there. So I try and get there about 2 to 3 times a year. It's really work and play for me because I tend to go and see her and do Easter or Thanksgiving with her and her family. And then work related in the sense that I really try and center my trips around industry events and opportunities that are again going to help me grow and expand. So for example, my most recent trip, I attended the makeup show in San Francisco earlier in the year, and then recently in LA. I got to meet Jordan Liberty, and I got to attend workshops with Danessa Myricks. So some real industry leaders that I feel so grateful to meet and learn from. So yeah, it's normally about just creatively upskilling myself, doing portfolio days. And LA just has that energy. It's so different from Australia. Um, it's just a larger economy. It's the entertainment hub of the world. It's really entrepreneurial. So I just find that there's a really amazing collaborative energy over there. Like you can easily access models, photographers, creatives, and everyone's willing to work together and make things happen. And no one is ever going to tell you your dream's too big or you're not going to achieve this.
Oh, I love that. That sounds so infectious to be around.
It really is. And honestly, that being there earlier in the year is what made me finally decide to launch my own business because after leaving my full-time job, I took a little bit of a break. I went to LA and I did this creative course at a makeup academy. And they actually supply the talent and the makeup artists for music videos and movies.
Amazing.
So I got to learn under a celebrity makeup artist who has worked with Kylie Jenner. She does male grooming now for Chris Brown and
Oh,
Casper
wow.
Smart and all these people. I know. And we became friends. And so I just realized that LA is also just really good from a network point of view. So yeah, I mainly go back for that because each trip has just been so fruitful for me.
Incredible. And you mentioned there some celebrities and really high profile names. Do you have any special LA stories that you might want to share with us?
There's so many. LA is just one of those places because all these people live and work there, you just run into them. Like in my March trip when I was there earlier in the year, I actually ran into Jay Shetty. I don't know if you know
Very
who that
cool.
is.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, and like 2 years ago, no one knew who Jay Shetty was. So for anyone that might not know who he is, he's known as the urban monk because he used to be a monk, and now he's a motivational speaker. He's got like 1.8 million followers on Instagram, and I think a community of like 18 or 19 million on Facebook, which is just insane.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Like in the span of 24 months. And yeah, I was around that time in March, I had just discovered him through a podcast and I was just really resonating with his content. And he really motivated me to start my own business and, just change my mindset around a few things. So to run into him was an absolutely crazy experience for me. And it just showed me that anything can happen in LA. He gave me a big hug. We hung out. We
Oh.
took selfies together. He started following me on Instagram. And, you just walk away from these experiences and you're like, did that just happen? But yeah, it's just common for that to happen in LA.
That's crazy, isn't it? You would never, well, very very seldom run into a celebrity in Australia, would you?
Yeah, but it's also like it's not comparable, it's not fair to compare because they all literally live and work over there. So
Yes, true. You mentioned there as well that you've got a master's in communication and business, and you also have a qualification in training and assessment. So you clearly have a passion for education. What drives you to further study those courses?
yeah, look, when I started working in the beauty industry, and I would go to these trainings with Chanel and Estee Lauder, and they were run so beautifully, and I would look at the educator and just I wanted to be them. They really
Mm,
inspired me. These people, they just knew so much. Like we as students would ask them such detailed information, like extrapolating, SPF and like, for example, like what is a physical SPF versus a chemical, and they would just know everything. and
mm.
and because our industry is so fast paced, there's always new ingredients or innovative techniques or a new trend. It's really moving so quickly. I thought that being an educator would force me to keep abreast of, whatever was going on in the industry and really know my stuff. And that's what appealed to me.
Amazing. It's actually quite refreshing to hear somebody who is so successful like yourself that you are still studying and upskilling and learning every day, because sometimes we look at somebody who is so influential and making such a mark on the industry and we go, well, they must be the be all and end all. And, they've got there through way of study, but now they don't have to study. So it's actually quite nice to hear that you are still loving and learning and passionate about enhancing your education every single day, even though you are at the point now where, you are quite successful and you still do have a developed business.
Yeah, thank you. I actually think that's the key to success is to always be learning and expanding yourself. And with the product reviews that I do with all my collaborations, I feel like I really want to provide value, not just to the partners that I'm working with, but also to my audience. And I feel, in a way, I feel more pressure and more responsibility because I have a big Instagram account and a big following. I feel like I kind of need to bring my A game all the time. And the only way I can do that is if I'm learning and expanding myself.
Yeah, you're 100%. And so you've used that study and now you're turning your hand to helping others. What kind of services are you providing in your business, Beauty by Neha?
Okay, so Beauty by Neha, it basically is a professional beauty blog, but I've got two aspects to the business that are thriving at the moment. So the first thing I do is content creation. So I use my 140K Instagram account and Beauty by Neha, the blog, to write professional product reviews and basically to create any content that's going to give a specific brand more awareness, more credibility in the market. So sometimes that might be via an Instagram story, it might be a post that I do for them, or just a professional product review, really outlining, what gap they're filling in the market. It might be a specific ingredient that they really want me to focus on. So that's the content creation side of the business. And often what I find is that these companies can then reference or repurpose my content in their own websites and marketing, which has proven to be quite useful for them.
Absolutely.
The second aspect of the business is coaching and consulting. So I used to be a rep and I also used to do a lot of business coaching. So I guess I really, the problem that I'm finding, um, I constantly come across people that have worked with PR agencies that have overcharged them for their
Mm.
Instagram, or their, generally their social media presence, and they haven't actually delivered results, or they might have had a social media person that applied some generic strategies but didn't really know much about the industry. So having actually worked in the industry and grown my account organically, I feel like I can coach and consult in a way that is quite relevant to the industry. And yeah, I just have a different approach with them and I have specific examples and I know their pain points and what works. So yeah, so I coach beauty brands, I help them to grow their online presence. And yeah, those are basically the two things that I do.
Amazing. And it's so good that you are combining those, because exactly as you've said there, we see a lot of PR brands who are trying to get new clients, and that would be, beauty business clients or product brand clients, but they don't have a hand on the beauty industry. So then it's almost like you have to teach them everything about skin, product, ingredients, and makeup. And then on the other hand, you've got beauty businesses who are trying to run an Instagram or a Facebook or social media account, and they're not so great at the content creation or at copy. And so they've got all this information, but they're kind of just overwhelmed with it. And then their Instagram kind of looks like a shambles. So you've really combined the PR aspect, the copy aspect, the content aspect, and the knowledge and the education, which is kind of like a mecca.
Yes, and like I said, this was all not planned. It's just happened to have come together like this. And also the other thing I find is a lot of beauty brands work with influencers these days, which is a great thing to do, but often they don't have an influencer strategy. They don't really know what they're doing. So because I'm on both sides, like I'm coaching them, but I'm also being approached by brands that have an influencer strategy with my Instagram, I can guide them from a very different perspective and give them some insider tips on how to approach these people.
Amazing. And 140,000 followers. My goodness. How did you grow this in such a short amount of time? I have a few questions here for you. How do you help businesses do the same? And can you share with us any tips or tricks in something that maybe somebody can do right after this podcast today?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I get asked this question all the time. How did you grow your account to this huge following? I actually got interviewed about it recently in Her Magazine and Womanpreneur. So I go into a very in-depth story, which I won't do now. But people can read about it over there. But basically, in a nutshell, my Instagram account started as a hobby. I was not a social media girl. I didn't even have a Facebook account. I didn't know how Instagram worked. But about 2.5 years ago, when I was working full time, I started Instagram as a bit of a side hobby. And really, as soon as I started my account, it just blew my mind, the amount of makeup artistry talent that was online. And I've always been one of those people that loves to support other people's dreams and their talents. So I thought, why don't I create a curation account? Since I don't have the time in my full-time job to actually create content, I wanted to support these people. So I created a curation account and started studying the exact strategies that seemed to really be working. And very quickly my account started growing because I became so obsessed with reaching specific milestones. Like I just gave myself little goals. Like this month, I'm going to hit 5,000 followers. This month, I'm going to hit 10,000 followers. And I almost wanted to treat it like a digital magazine that just curated the best looks. And what actually happened was some of my posts started getting like 500,000 views, 1 million views, 1.2 million views.
Wow.
And more views than the actual artist was getting on their own account. But because I was linking back to them, they started growing. And then, it just resulted in these amazing online friendships, and their followers started following me. So so my audience grew organically because of these friendships as well.
Incredible. So how do you use your knowledge and your expertise to help businesses do the same on their account?
Yeah, look, do you want me to go into like specific tips?
Yeah, anything you can help us with.
Yeah, look, there's so much. I could talk about this all day because it's an area that I'm very passionate about. But the thing is, the first thing I actually want to say is I think a lot of businesses, they aim for a large account. That's not always the answer for everyone. So for example, my account grew so quickly, but the downside of the viral strategies that I employed with my account is now I've launched my own business and the direction of my account has changed. I now have Beauty by Neha. But a lot of the people that are following me, because a lot of them didn't even know who I was till I hit about 120K, then people kind of found out who I was because I launched my own business. So a lot of those people are not actually aligned with my values in my business.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the downside. I've got this large audience. They're all interested in beauty, so it works great for my collaborations, but they're not necessarily the right audience for Beauty by Neha. And me, they're just getting to know me, so it's going to take some time to build that side of things. And so a large following is not always the answer for everyone. What I help my clients do is I help them build smaller but very engaged accounts with the right following.
Yeah, that's so important. I think I was looking at some influencer stats after we spoke with Kayla Houlihan from Tribe, and she was saying that the conversion or the interaction that influencers actually have is actually more important than the number of people that they have. So, you could have 140,000, for example, but you've got a 3% interaction with your community. So actually only 3% are looking at your content or they're commenting. Do you know what I mean? So sometimes, exactly as you've said, then the more followers doesn't actually mean that you are going to get that cross promotion. So I think having a community who's more aligned with what you're doing and they are interacting and they are actually commenting and liking is definitely the way to go.
So do you want me to go into top 3 tips?
Perfect. Love you too.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, look, top 3 tips that I think absolutely anyone can employ in their business. Number one, I always see beauty businesses not posting consistently. So, consistency is my first tip. We are in a very saturated market. There's a lot of great products out there, there's a lot of people running good businesses. So, really, you have to figure out what makes you stand out, and you really have to don't not to treat Instagram like a hobby, but rather like a business and post consistently at least 1 to 3 times a day.
Wow. 3. Goodness.
That's what actually that was one of the things that grew my account is, I was posting no matter what. If I was sick or I was on holiday, I just never took a day off posting. And what happens as a result is your audience starts to really trust you as a brand because they know that you're going to be there every single day providing value, and they just come to really rely upon that and see you as an industry leader.
Amazing. And I guess there's so many scheduling tools these days that you could take an hour or 90 minutes from, your Sunday where you might be watching Netflix and you can schedule all your content. And then that way it's more easy to post 3 times a day.
Absolutely. There's all these approved programs that Instagram's approved now that work in conjunction with Instagram where you can plan out your content for the week and it just posts away. And, your job is just to get on and do some engagement, to keep it very organic and keep it growing. But in terms of posting, you don't actually have to take time out of your day to do it anymore, which is great.
Fantastic. And tip number 2.
Okay, second tip would be authenticity. So don't try and be your competitor. Don't try and be someone else. And just because someone else is successful with one strategy doesn't mean that that's the right strategy for you. So the follower count, for example, maybe for your business, 3,000 followers are plenty, and stick to your strength zone and what you're good at. So be very authentic in the way that you're presenting yourself and make sure that your brand persona and your brand values are always coming through in your content.
Amazing. I love that. I recently was following a chain of laser and skin clinics, and I noticed that their branding was really strong, and it was black and white and gold and glitter. And then I was also following this other laser and skin chain, and they had kind of oranges and pinks, and all of a sudden now I'm seeing this black, gold and gold glitter come through, and you just kind of think exactly as you said, you do need to be authentic, because I'm probably reading into it a little bit too much because I do run, multiple Instagram pages, but I just thought that's not true of them, and it's not actually their branding, and they were trying to be something different, and you should just stay in your own lane and be more real, shouldn't you?
Absolutely. And it's so difficult to continue to be something that you're not. I think eventually it's exhausting. The more authentic that you are, like, for example, with my account, you'll never see me promoting anything that is not cruelty free because it just breaks
Mm.
my values. I will never work with a brand that tests on animals.
Amazing. Yeah, it's exactly right. And your community will grow from that because they will want to follow you and support you. And then that will kind of build your little tribe to say, okay, well, I'm following Neha because she is animal cruelty free and supporting animals. So what other brands can I look at on her page that are aligned with those values? So it's kind of just creating that organic traction.
Exactly, in that alignment, which is what you want. You don't just want any customer, you want the right customer. I think that's very important.
Absolutely.
So, my third tip is basically generosity and value. I think there's so much information online these days. I think you've really got to separate yourself as a brand that's consistently adding value through your content without demanding anything from your audience in return so that they're not feeling sold to. And I think this is what makes people influential in the online space. You'll notice that as you start to put out valuable content, you start to grow in your following because people really start to view you as a leader. Um, for example, if you're a beauty salon, you could create a short guide of pro tips in an area of your expertise, or you could do BTS, behind the scenes posts and stories,
Yeah.
showcasing an event or like a VIP night that you did. You could talk about a key ingredient or get a staff member to talk about, skin, for example. There's so many things that you can do in the online space so that people feel like they're really constantly getting value from your account.
Amazing. Yeah. I remember I was running an account a few years ago for a day spa company. And every time I put up like a generic kind of filler post, which was, about a stock image with a photo for a massage and it was this price, or, this was the product and blah, blah, blah. The most traction I actually got was when I featured the therapist, and they were exactly as you're saying, doing like a behind the scenes of getting their trays ready or getting the treatment room ready, or even like their favorite tip. And those posts got so many more likes and comments
Mm.
than any of the kind of generic stock imagery did. So that's a really good tip there.
Yeah, it makes it personal. People, everything's so polished on Instagram and we enjoy it, but at the end of the day, we know that not all of it is real. So I think when people see the reality of the situation in a business, and I think it's such an amazing way to be able to showcase who you are as a salon or as a brand, because Instagram algorithm actually favors stories at the moment. So people should take advantage of that and, create those live stories and show people who you are and communicate and add value to them that way.
Absolutely. And Neha, you mentioned there your blog. What drew you to creating a blog, and why, what's your purpose or your why behind doing so?
I actually started to notice that a lot of the beauty blogs around these days were purely about makeup or skin or constantly pushing a lot of product, which I wasn't a fan of personally. I think every blog has its place, and I think there's a place for that as well. I mean, I do product reviews too, but I'm very picky about the products that I promote, and I wanted to create a blog that was going to empower women. There is with the Instagram space especially, I'm noticing we have such a skewed idea of beauty these days, and so many
Mm.
people are insecure. And I think I read a stat that only like 4% of women actually think that they're beautiful.
Oh, that's so sad.
It's really sad. And I feel like I'm in such a privileged position as a makeup artist. I can help women look better and feel more confident, but actually I actually want them to feel beautiful from the inside out. And I wanted to create a brand that empowered and educated women and went beyond that sort of surface level of just,
Amazing.
beauty articles and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, is that the main point of difference between your blogs and other blogs that are out there?
Yeah, I would say it's my why. So if someone really resonates with that, if you want content that's beyond skin deep and you want to learn about business and you want to learn about inner beauty and success secrets and morning routines and a very holistic blog, then my blog would be perfect for you. And I think the other thing that separates it is I actually get a lot of celebrity MUAs, business owners, and industry experts, and I actually get them to, on a weekly basis, contribute to my blog, so that I can actually hone in on their experiences and give my audience very practical value. So if you're an MUA, for example, you would love my interview with Emily Hache. She is the head of all glam at E! News in Hollywood. And I interviewed her about what it's like to really work in Hollywood, and what are the realities of the industry. And so there's something for everyone in there, but it's always going to be practical value.
Amazing. I love that. And you mentioned there one of your services with Beauty by Neha is doing professional product reviews. You're certainly an Instagram influencer yourself with 140,000 following. What kind of products or services are you most aligned with in reviewing?
So it has to be cruelty free. That's a non-negotiable for me because I'm a huge animal lover. And if it's an ethical brand, I'm going to back it up 100%. I basically love supporting small businesses. I'm also working with bigger brands at the moment, but really, it's anyone that has unique ingredients, or a point of difference that they really want to communicate, a results-oriented product. Those are the things that really will draw me to the brand. But more than anything, a brand with soul and passion. Like a brand that's really passionate about what it's delivering and has a really a good why that really resonates with my brand as well, because I'm always looking to work with people that are aligned with
Incredible.
my purpose.
It's nice to hear that you are such a large Instagram influencer, and I'm sure some of the Instagram influencers out there are getting products thrown at them left, right, and center. And because they are just getting free product or they're getting paid to do that, I'm sure sometimes their values would be compromised because they are just wanting to promote for the sake of promoting. But it's actually quite refreshing to hear that you really do align with your heart and your soul and what those values are, and that you're not budging from those. So that's really nice.
Oh, thank you.
And so what I saw recently on your Instagram was that you ran an educational workshop with Miss Fox down in Melbourne. Do you run these for other businesses, and what does your workshop look like?
Yeah, look, my workshops can look like whatever the business owners wants, because I've got the beauty industry experience and also business and Instagram kind of social media tips and things like that as well. So it's really about what the business owner is wanting to achieve through that workshop. With Miss Fox, they're all about self-care and holistic beauty and making a positive impact. So our workshop was so much fun because as brands we're so aligned, and we basically showed the audience how to create an everyday look, and then how to transition it into an evening kind of more glamorous halo eye, which they really enjoyed. And then we threw in a couple of self-care tips, and what does inner beauty mean to you, and what's your favorite self-care ritual, things like that. So it was very conversational, very engaged. So that's how my workshops are, but it can basically be anything that they want.
Amazing. And you and I were talking offline that perhaps in the future, 2019, Beauty by Neha and Beauty Industry can combine to run one of those workshops together. So watch this space, audience.
Yes, I would love to do that with you. And I really enjoyed the brunch that you just ran a couple of days ago. It was awesome to meet all these like-minded business owners.
It's so much fun, isn't it? And that's exactly what you're saying. When you align with someone, be that on a social, digital, or in real life platform, it's like your community just grows because you're authentic, your values are just connected, and it's just such a wonderful partnership.
I just love actually making friends in the industry. Like some of the product reviews I've done, I actually worked with a brand called Vasara. Have you heard of them?
No, I've not.
Oh, so beautiful. So these women are industry experts with, decades of experience in skin. But it's a very small brand because it's a new brand. So they're trying to gain exposure and traction at the moment. And it's two sisters and a best friend that started it. And they've combined the concepts of aromatherapy and Ayurveda. And like just using their facial oils, you feel like you're in a day spa
Oh,
when you're at home.
amazing.
Like just beautiful, and just the amount of thought that goes into every single ingredient. So I actually did a product review for them, and I feel like they're my friends. And this is what I love about the industry. You know, when we choose collaboration over competition, it's like you work together and you can really develop these online friendships. It's just amazing.
Incredible. That's exactly what we're all about. You've hit the nail on the head. So, Neha, I'm sure people are going to want to get in contact with you and pick your brain about workshops and collab, and definitely getting some coaching advice from you. So, other than clicking on our beauty industry website, finding your profile you via the chat function, where else can people find more about you and your services?
Yeah, so if they go to beautybyneha.com, they can sign up to become a BBN Insider, and with that, they actually receive VIP offers, pro tips. They actually receive my top 10 Instagram tips in their mailbox upon signing up, and then, any workshops that I run or any news like that. And you can also find out all about my services on that website. The best way to actually message me and engage with me is on Instagram. So I'm under Neha_makeup artist. And that's really the best place to find me. And people think, oh, she's got a big account, so she's not going to engage with us. Not true. I respond to every single message. I value every single person that reaches out. And I love supporting and helping other people. So, yeah.
Amazing. Incredible. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day today to join us and letting me pick your brain on everything Beauty by Neha and what's happening for you in 2019. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Tamara. And I just want to encourage and compliment you too, because I so respect the beauty industry business that you've started. And just the community that you've created. There was such a gap in our market that you filled. So I'm really grateful for that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's funny, exactly as you said with your Instagram, when things are just meant to be and when there is a gap and you can fill it, and when you're showing support and intent, it just works, doesn't it?
It certainly does. And I'm so glad that our paths crossed. So thank you.
Thank you so much once again for tuning into the Beauty Industry podcast. If you haven't already, make sure you jump on to our website, beautyindustry.com, create yourself an online member profile. You can personalize your profile page and start connecting and chatting via our chat function to all of our industry experts that have member profiles. You will also receive all of our super important email updates straight to your inbox. Once again, appreciate all of your contribution to our community and your support to our independent podcast. As always, until next time, stay connected. Team Beauty, thank you so much for all of your love and your support across our first year in business. 2018, what a ride it has been for us. We are going on a little hiatus over Christmas time to refresh, rejuvenate, and reinvigorate our souls so that we can come back to you in 2019 with lots more inspiring, motivating, and educational content. We wish you all a Merry Christmas and the happiest and safest new year you can possibly have. Until next year, stay connected.